guess ultimately the last question, and after this we'll just go straight into the Q&A. How do you see the current situation playing out?
Well, there are many unknowns how the war will evolve, because things, we have many uncertainties because of the war itself. But there are things I would say most probably what will happen is Russia, whatever the outcome of this war, Russia will be weaker regardless of the final result in Ukraine. Even if it continues like this, we might have different problems within Russia, because war and difficulties. If the Russian army is stuck in in Ukraine and they cannot get what they wanted as fast they thought they could, war might trigger even some changes within Russia. It depends on the impact of the economic crisis as well. Because if you look at the Russian history, system change usually comes after military difficulties. After the Crimean War in 1856, after the Russo-Japanese War in 1905. For instance, 1905, we had the revolution. After the Crimean War, we had the emancipation of serfs. After the second, or during the First World War, we had a revolution in 1917, and one might argue that the situation in Afghanistan, the Soviet troops there in 1980s, also was a contributor of the political changes followed under Gorbachev. So that might be a possibility, but either way, even if Russia, the Putin administration in Moscow, even if they think that they gain something from this at the end, if we end up with that, still Russia will be weaker than Russia will end up weaker and by the end of this process. Whatever the situation is, Ukraine will be also weaker because of the destructions, and Russia will be weaker and isolated. And what that means, that the war in Ukraine, I think, might be the first European crisis or global crisis where the Chinese great power enters as a game changer, because Beijing follows a careful diplomacy here, and Washington, of course, trying to change Beijing's line from its, divert Beijing from its tightrope walk. And this might be working because there are some indications that China is withdrawing its support to Russia, and but also all these things. What we see in the media, what leaks, also the certain leaks we read, there is which gives an impression to me is that the Americans demand Chinese involvement in the crisis, and that's a tacit acknowledgement of China's rising power in global politics. So. It's even the American side leaked that the U.S. officials repeatedly asked for Chinese help before the invasion. In international relations, very often stable balance of power is necessary for peace among conflicting powers. These are there's a power rivalry here, and China might emerge stronger after the crisis by guaranteeing a certain balance. So West needs China to control a declining and revisionist Russia as another power. And I think Putin listens to Xi Jinping more than anyone else. And at the same time, Russia will end up weaker and being more dependent on China, regardless of the final result in Ukraine. So in that sense, after this war, China will have more say on what the world order looks like. I think that will be the major outcome, whatever happens in Europe.
When you said that perhaps war would create a crisis within Russia itself, and like a shift in the political order, given that currently the political order would be classified as conservative, right? Could that actually create openings for like perhaps a left within Russia or those type of demands, given that it's already nationalist? I don't imagine a crisis would drive towards further nationalism. I didn't imagine they would drive in the counter direction, or is that perhaps wrong? Yeah, I mean, I'm asking you to predict the future, which clearly, right? But I guess your thoughts, perhaps.
Thank you so much. Well, actually, that's very difficult to predict, because it might go either way. If at the end of this conflict, Russia is isolated and economically, politically, and the current political elites might go further down more nationalism and more internal repression of the opposition might increase, and that's why we might experience a period in Russia, just hitting the bottom, just going down before it goes up, because there is no organized opposition, and also people, of course, and also there's a population that is in a way believe in the nationalist discourse. This is what is happening in Russia. I mean, it's not like everyone is waiting for an opportunity to change the political elite there. There is also a certain amount of internal support. So we will see how things will develop further. What will be the impact of, first of all, of course, what will happen in Ukraine? That's a big factor. And then what will be how the war will end, I mean. And then what will be the impact of this in Russian domestic politics and in people's understanding of things. We will see, and the economic consequences now, of course, the sanctions and all that, we will see also what will be the consequence of that in Russia. It's hard to guess now at this stage.
Great, thank you so much for your time, for all your insights, and yeah, it's been a very enlightening conversation. So thank you, Dr. Yılmaz, and now I'll pass it on to Greg.